Welcome back to Indyfest 2021. I'm John Ralston, the editor of Nevada Independent. We're on our final focus group of the day. You've heard from Democrats, you've heard from Latino voters, you've heard from nonpartisans and minor party voters. Now you're going to hear from some Republican voters who have been chosen by our great recruitment firm led by Matt Seltzer. Welcome to all of you here. Thank you so much for taking part in this focus group. Let's just start out with some introductions. I want this to just be a conversation. You're all sitting together in a living room and just talking to each other. Just tell me your name, what you do for a living, and how long you lived in Nevada.
Justin Donald. I've been in Nevada about 18 years, and I do real estate full-time. Work up at the LA Comedy Club.
Great.
My name is Mary Doucette, and I work in property management, and I've lived here for about 30 years.
My name is Jason Benton. I have been living in Nevada for about 6 years now. I'm a progressive Republican, and I work as a risk specialist for a tech company.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Pat Hughes. I am retired in Las Vegas 20 years, and I love it here, and that's about it for now.
Okay.
Naomi Phillips. I've been in Las Vegas for approximately 22 years, conference planner.
Okay.
My name is Eric Serrano. I'm a Las Vegas native. I'm an operations manager for a firearms manufacturer.
Okay.
My name is Phoenix Farnell. I've been in Las Vegas for 11 years. I work for the Aria Poker Room.
Great. So as I said, I want you to, just have a conversation. Somebody says something you want to respond to, just lift up your hand or something, you can jump in. Who wants to talk about what it means to be a Republican today in the world? What does it mean? Why are you a Republican? Anybody?
Well, I think I know that I'm a Republican because at the core I have a base of conservative values. However, I do feel that with my life experience and the changing times, there needs to be a type of incorporation kind of all people, of all status, of all lifestyles and backgrounds. And I'm proud to be a Republican, but now being a Republican, you're kind of forced to be a defender. You have to defend what a lot of people consider to be the old guard or the old way. And I'm hoping that dialogues like this will help evolve the Republican Party or the image of the Republican Party.
That's a great start to this. Who agrees with what he says, disagrees? Anybody have any thoughts? What does it mean to you to be a Republican? Go ahead.
I kind of personally don't, I don't like the labels Republican or Democrat or any of that. I really wasn't even sure what a difference was a few years ago until I went and took the test and kind of looked at the categories in which way you fell. So that's when I kind of leaned more towards the Republican. But I don't like that title because I just figure if you have an issue, you shouldn't just be like on one side or the other. It's how you personally feel, your life experiences, or what on that actual topic, whether it's Republican or not.
What pushed you then to eventually register as a Republican? Because if you don't think there's that much difference between the parties, you could have registered as a nonpartisan.
No,
right?
I know there is a difference. There's definitely a difference. It's just certain topics that were kind of, I noticed there's extremists on both sides. There's definitely crazy people on Republican side and Democrat
Neither
side.
party has a monopoly on crazy.
Yeah, it's it's insane. But I just noticed some of the values kind of leaning towards conservative, which once again I wasn't even sure what that meant until I went on deeper and learned it. So I leaned more towards that. So
That's a good point. I mean, because a lot of times it does come down to which checklist weighs more for you between the Republican values or the Democratic values. And sometimes you feel as though you're forced to choose, but
Right.
you may have values that kind of are shared between both parties.
I agree with that. It's really hard to say that I'm a Republican or a Democrat, but I just felt like the reason I became a Republican is because I'm very conservative, religious, and so that's why I went towards that. As far as the Democrats, I feel like they fight for liberty and everything on the other side as far as that goes,
I've been voting for a lot of years, and in my house, we are registered split, and I never remember which one I am. And we argue about that quite often. And when I get to the box on election day, I vote with my heart because I want to vote for the person that I think is going to do the best for our country. And I've changed my mind many times over the years, depending on what their principles are and how I want to see our country go. And I don't always vote according to the way I'm registered because the person that's running isn't always doing what I think is best for the country.
I was raised, my household were Social Democrats, New York. And I became, I guess, a Reagan Democrat. And since the advent of that, I remained a Republican. And I don't feel a need to defend the label. In the final analysis, I would hope that every person, when they go into the voting booth, vote according to who they feel is the best candidate, irregardless of party. And that's what I do. I wish I could say I've been tempted to switch to the other side. And in some cases, I have down ballot. I have to emphasize down ballot. I have. But my vote always reflects who I feel to be the best candidate. In terms of your comment, John, if I may, why my colleague here didn't or couldn't register as or should have registered as nonpartisan, because we are a closed primary state. And you want to have an impact on who ultimately will be on the slate, you have to be registered to a
Can't vote in the primary if you're not registered with one of the major
Exactly.
parties, is what-
Just like you don't have a Costco membership, you can't shop there. So it's disadvantageous to those that are either independent or nonpartisan because they're precluded in the final analysis from casting a vote that could actually have impact.
I get it. Eric, I think you said you grew up here.
Yeah.
Have you always been a Republican? Why are you a Republican?
I've always been raised religiously, and I've had very conservative values. So it just doesn't, like, I don't know. Just the values, I think, speak the most to me from the Republican side.
Yeah, I'm a Christian Republican, conservative Republican, and I'm proud of it, and I don't back down. So I stick to that. I'm not ashamed of it, and I agree with a lot of the values and a lot of things that they stand for.
You know, it's interesting you say that you're not ashamed of it because you heard Jason say that he finds himself in a position of having to defend being a Republican. Is that a general feeling that you feel these days you have to defend being a Republican? Why do you feel that way?
Sometimes it's just because they think that you're racist or, you're automatically labeled that. I'm Hispanic. Really? So that's a lot of it, I think.
I think to tap on that point, coming from not a religious family, and I respect pretty much all religions, but I don't follow a religion. But I do believe that there's more morals and values. You could not follow a religion and still have morals. And I find myself defending religions that I don't even follow, or people just, could you hear negative things or someone says. So to touch on that point, what I've noticed in my personal experience is it seems like Republicans always tend to be defending. In other words, there's a whole bunch of names or categories that it seems like the other side will put Republicans in, and it's like, and there's such harsh categories, you're on defense when it's, like she said, someone could just say something like, hey, you're a racist, and you're like, whoa, now you're trying to fight out of defending that opposed to actually facing the issue at what's at hand. Or, if you're anti-vaxxer, or you're defending instead of going at what's actually at hand. You're playing defense mode, and I've noticed from my experience it's kind of seems like the Democratic has more names or corners the Republicans more, just from my experience, what I see.
What do you guys think of that? You feel defensive about being a Republican?
Oh,
Not at all. I wouldn't feel defensive if I was Democrat. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, the politics of today are so screwed up, it doesn't matter what party you belong to. If you're a Democrat, you're going through a whole bunch of crap all the time, and if you're a Republican, you're still going through a whole bunch of crap. It doesn't matter.
Who agrees with that statement? Politics today is all screwed up.
oh, disgusting.
Well, we
That
do agree with that
screwed up
part,
is
yes.
an understatement.
Understand.
An
So let me
understatement.
let you start since you brought this topic up. How are they screwed up?
All the policies that every one of them start to put out there during election time or pre-election time are, the issues of the day. And then when they get there, they make all the promises of what they're going to do, no matter who it is, no matter what person is running for what office. They make all of these promises, and then when they get there, they find out that it's not so easy to really give those promises to America. There's all these steps that they have to follow before they can provide all these promises. And no matter which party gets into the office, they find out that there's a lot of hurdles to get over to fulfill all of these promises. And, people live voting for these candidates with the promise or the hope that they're going to fulfill these promises. And it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, they're given 4 years, but 4 years is not enough time for a president. They just get the wheels moving after the first year and then the second year. And before you know it, they're starting to think about running again. And the next thing you know, you got your 4-year term over and you're thinking of the next election. And maybe that president isn't going to get reelected. And before you know it, you're starting all over again for another new election. And the wheels keep turning. It's like the fence that Donald Trump built. It was almost completed and then it stopped. It's dead in the water.
So who else thinks politics are all messed up and why?
They are. I used to fantasize that someone would actually propose and they'd get the legislation passed, like truth in lending, like a truth in lending law. This is your campaign promise, this is your platform, this is what you're going to do. You either have to meet those commitments or you're out of office. Of course, there's always a proviso that, if you can show somehow that you made really a good faith effort and not just pandering to some base or other, okay, then you can slide. But there's no accountability, and it's beyond no accountability. Everyone, I think most people know or feel that platforms and campaign promises are not worth anything than the 2-minute sound bites. It's just pandering for votes, most of it. And that's the sad part, and that's how we're in the situation we're in.
Who else has thoughts on that?
I think there's the campaign promise, and then there's the political reality. Once they step into that position in that sphere, there's a lot of negotiating. There's a lot that is required of just one person to reach out to so many different groups and entities to make a law accomplished. But I think that only thing that we could do is really hold our political candidates accountable.
That's right.
Our voice, right now it is so hectic right now in this political climate, but that's a great thing. That's an exciting thing that people are so engaged and energized in our democracy and expressing their particular viewpoints, because that's what makes America America.
Oh.
Jason is bringing a ray of sunshine in here.
Yeah, he is.
Optimistic, is he not?
Yes.
Who else is optimistic? Who else feels maybe it's not so much of a mess?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
You go through so much for change to come into fruition. It takes time,
So let's talk about some more specific issues. And we've all been affected by COVID. Some few have brought it up even tangentially. Tell me about what kind of job you think the governor has done in handling COVID. Who has some thoughts on that?
Terrible.
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 Yeah.
Okay, you go first, Naomi, then we'll have Eric.
Okay. Well, first, I'll start with the most recent. Imposing a mandate on employees, for example, casino employees and so forth, and allowing the guests that come from all over the world with the possibility of what all, no, they don't have to be masked. Where is the sense of that? It's absurd. It's just theater. To impose that on employees and not on everyone else that comes into the hotels?
Well, there is an indoor mask mandate now.
And you have the option as an employee, you just don't work there.
I don't criticize the mask mandate. Let me make that abundantly clear at all. I'm just saying that it should be for everyone or for no one, because he keeps reversing course.
Yeah.
Which he's done from the very beginning.
So, Eric, tell me why. You said terrible as well.
I feel like he just does whatever Newsom does, and he treats
Yeah.
our state's very unique in the fact that we have two population hubs in Reno, the Reno area, and here in Clark County. And in between is a bunch of smaller places that have, you know, possibly hundreds of people living there, and he treats the whole state as Clark County, because that's all he knows. And he wasn't good as a county commissioner. He's definitely not proving good as a governor. So he's treating the whole state like Vegas when it's not. You know, there's different unique circumstances in Elko and Jackpot than there are here or in Reno, but he treats everything the same, you know? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, unless you're just trying to pander to your Democrat party, you know?
Are you saying he treats treats Clark County because he's differently because he's from here, or because it's a very Democratic
I
county?
don't think he cares. I think that he just does whatever the Democrats order him to do.
It's the biggest voter base and fundraising area, but populations have unique qualities about them, and that relates, of course, to COVID as well. And as you said, the small populations in Nevada may require different approach. So their local governments should have, I don't think they do have, much of an input. And with this
Too many state mandates, you're saying.
Yeah.
without rhyme or reason, yes, you go to sleep with one concept or one set of rules. You wake up in the morning, depending how early, you get the news that forget about yesterday. This is what we're going to do starting today. And there's no continuity. There's no seemingly a forethought or preparation. You know, being fed things piecemeal is not helpful.
So what do you think, Phoenix? Has the governor done a good job or a bad job?
I think he's done meet middle. I think he's human. I mean, he's trying to give the information from what he knows from other states and other countries, and while also trying to mandate here in Nevada. I mean, it's really hard to mandate, as Eric had said, it's really hard to mandate Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is a different thing. Like, we have people that comes from Europe, everywhere pretty much. And so it's really hard to mandate how they go. Because in Europe, they're very strict, like, as far as COVID system goes. And so he's trying to mandate that to kind of like mirror other countries. And it's really hard to do that as far as that goes.
I feel like there's no right answer, because we're not given right answers on like how to research or how to find correct numbers. You know, like you have one website will tell you one thing, another one tells you another, and then one tries to discredit that website and say it's misinformation. But is it? Or is it just bullying? You know, you have things where there's so many different topics where you just, and I feel like even these governors or people, they're trying to do the best they can. I'm sure none of them are going in it thinking they're purposely making the wrong decision. It's what they're being told. I mean, they're not doctors, they're not scientists, they're not, and where we do get those numbers from, that's supposedly, you know, the right place, they're constantly backtracking, oh, we were wrong on that, or we didn't put on that, or then you have other places you try and gather your own research and make an informative decision, and then you're like, that's discredited. So I made a good point. I was having a discussion with somebody And I said, I kind of pay attention to my sphere. Your people that you're around. Say, if there was no news, there was no TV, there was no social media, and you go based on what you're physically seeing and what you're personally being affected by, and none of it makes sense. So then you go, when you try to speak about that, then that's where you're backed into a corner, because the science or a conspiracy theorist, or you're selfish, you're not thinking of others, and then immediately it puts you into a vulnerable, like, wow, you're a bad guy trying to defend how you're not, and instead of talking about what you're seeing and what's being said. So that's where where I was talking about before, it seemed like, I wasn't saying Republicans, I'm saying certain issues.
Right.
If me and you disagree on an issue, instead of tackling the fact, the person, integrity, knowledge, humanity, that gets attacked.
So, thumbs up, thumbs down on the governor.
Down.
Down.
Oh, we know where you are. Don't worry.
I'm telling you, I'm not educated enough
Okay.
to
What
say,
about
give a
you,
good
Mary?
answer.
I don't know, it kind of goes back and forth, some of these mandates. I think he copies California, and every time something happens in California, they're like, oh, it's going to be here, it's going to come here. I'm in property management, so
What makes you say
it
that? That's
affects me.
interesting. Because I think Eric said he does whatever Newsom does as well, right?
Because whenever we got the first mask mandate, things spiked in California and LA, and then all of a sudden, 2 days later, without any cause or whatever, he was just like, yeah, mandate. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense when you're like, you have to, in 3 days, you have to, at midnight, you have to wear a mask. Why in 3 days? If it's that bad, if it's that much of a health hazard, it should be right then. Hey, I'm making this announcement, mask mandate starting now. Why is it 3 days at midnight? What makes it that more deadly 3 days at midnight as it is right now?
Right.
I agree with you.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I
it just
felt he
seems
was earnest, though, in the beginning, Governor Sisolak, with as much scientific data as he had. And I think that in regards to mandates, I feel as though he did mandate the state entirely the same, because a lot of the smaller counties don't have the resources that we have in Clark County. So they didn't have access to the testing. They didn't even have access later to the availability of the vaccine protocol. So I do understand the need for him to mandate the state the same. But as far as him mirroring Newsom, I think that California is our neighbor. We rely so much on tourism, but we have Utah residents coming through here, California residents, on a daily continual basis. We have to respond to their medical needs. We have to as a state in order to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
What do you think, Pat? You've been silent.
Yeah, no, I'm listening, and I wouldn't want to be in the governor's shoes, trying to appease everybody all at the same time. If I do this, I'm wrong. If I do this, I'm wrong. No matter which way he goes, he's trying to appease everybody, all of them at the same time. And I personally think he's doing an okay job. It's hard. It's really hard trying to make the right decision for the whole state and keep everybody safe. And having all the people coming from all over the world to Las Vegas and Reno and other parts of the state, but primarily Las Vegas. And so I myself personally think that under the circumstances, he's doing a decent job. Does he make some crazy decisions sometimes? It seemed like what is he doing? Yeah. You stop and say, what is he doing? But then you try to look at the bigger picture. Okay, this makes sense because of this, and I try to cut him a break now and then because I wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
So, having said all that, and it's fascinating hearing all your views of the governor, raise your hand if you think it's possible that you would vote for him next year.
I would.
So we got one.
Possible.
Two.
Possible.
Three.
I would.
So, let's talk about another leader, and let's talk about the leader of the country, President Biden. Anyone here vote for Joe Biden? You didn't want to put your hand up, did you, Fiend? You're
No.
among your fellow Republicans. Why'd you vote for him?
As she said earlier, I just go by the heart, and I felt like Biden had his heart in there because he had a lot of, as you have said, when it comes to trying to vote, it's like he wanted to do the promises that they think, and I felt like his promises was there, you know? I mean, granted, he still have to get all the votes from the Congress and states. And I just feel like on the road that he was going through, I felt like he was there. He was there for the American people. That's what I felt.
What kind of job is Biden doing? What do you guys think?
Horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah, I think he's doing
Tell
a
me.
horrible job.
Tell me why.
Well, because half the time he doesn't even know where he's at. And it seems like there's somebody else that's telling him what to do. Just the whole Afghanistan thing, like he just has no answers. I don't trust him. I don't like what's going on with the economy. I don't like this $1 billion thing that he's trying to pass.
Trillion.
Trillion dollar. I mean, I don't trust him. I think he's just going to wreck our economy. And I go to the grocery store, everything's high, the inflation's high, just everything worries me.
The pipeline, the Russian pipeline he backed and got pushed through with Putin and he canceled ours. That's going to give them hundreds of billions of dollars and we get nothing, Our
How about the Keystone Pipeline?
Yes.
Keystone, yeah,
Yes.
the one he killed in the Canadian American one, but they don't care, They've proven left and right it's just like they don't care about Americans. They want everybody else to succeed except for us, and
Why
they
would
want
they
us to
want
pay
that?
for that.
Why would they want that, Eric?
Trying to
I
make
don't
us
know.
a socialist country, I think. I mean, honestly, sometimes I feel like he's trying to crash our economy. I don't trust him. I don't know what's going on. But with all the immigrants coming in and the border's wild, and I've never seen anything like it before. Not like this. There's no answers. No one's given answers.
I don't think he's deliberately trying to deflate or worsen our economy by any means. I just don't think he's got either the strength of any convictions or the mental acuity. I mean, it's very sad because despite whether I would have voted for him or not, which I didn't obviously and wouldn't again, I really respect and value the office of president. I and my family were immigrants, so I see things from a whole other dimension as perhaps my colleagues here at the table and out there, wherever. And he just, his gaffes are not funny. They're not funny. He's not some junior congressman or Senate aide or something that screws up all the time, but he's such a nice guy. He's got so much charm and what he means well. That's not the gig he's in. That is not it. And I heard your comments with your co-host earlier about the previous focus group. You tried to get them out of their bubble. These people are wearing blinders and they're not helping because by wearing blinders, it won't motivate this administration to move the whatever into normal.
Okay. Justin, I think you wanted to say something.
I want to kind of touch base a little bit what she said. It's going to add to what. So first, you're pro-American. So even if, regardless who you voted for, obviously, I went the other way. But I think a lot of people that went that way, I feel like they kind of almost root against him, want to see him fail. I'm the opposite. I want to see us do well. So I look at it and I kind of look at the positive in him and I try to find it. Now, when I see an article that's knocking or something that's it already has a narrative where it's going, I don't even read it. I go the opposite way. But I think the nail in the coffin for me was I watched his speeches, all his speeches he's given. None of them has ever been really, it's like he has something he has to say and then he's done. He doesn't take questions. He's never in the hot seat as far as responding to things. But the last one that he did was the one that kind of killed it for me. No matter what side you're on as far as the vaccine goes, I watched that thing over and over and it literally scared the crap out of me because the whole time it was creating a divide. It was creating a divide, and as a country, no matter, if you're trying to push this and market it, which is whatever, but that's where I lost all hope for him. It was creating a divide. It's, get your vaccination, and then the ones that are unvaccinated, they're the bad guys. I mean, without them saying the words, you watch it over and over, and I'm like, it scared me. It like literally, that's where I lost hope in the guy. And I'm like, it's like I said, it doesn't matter what side you're on. We're in this all together. We're same country, and it seems like it's trying to turn us against each other.
I mean, he has a list of reporters he's allowed to call on, you know, and he doesn't answer any question he doesn't know. He'll just pretend like it's not asked to him. You know, half the times his speeches just go on like the way he talks. It just goes on, and people just stop paying attention to him. I think that's what he counts on, because anything you say, like, because if you actually listen to what he says, it's pretty scary, like he said, you know.
And to laugh and say, gee, guys, sorry, they won't let me answer any questions. What is
crazy.
this?
Yeah.
He's the president, you mean?
Yeah.
Precisely. They won't let me, you know? It's like an empty suit up there. What do you mean they won't let me? They weren't elected. You were.
I feel like a lot of that kind of, even though he's a Democratic president, a lot of it is exacerbated by the media. I mean, I think that there is this media image that is trying to be falsely purported of him being senile or incapable. I mean, this is the office of the president. There is a team of people that work to keep this solid. So I feel that, I mean, he's spending a lot of money. That is very worrisome. However, I think that he is trying to take the country in another direction with the green stimulus program. I mean, to modernize the country, we need this. We need this stimulus, and we need this to be America strong. And I think that he's trying to push us in that direction.
He's killing our economy, though. Like,
Yes,
you can't tax us that bad and have our children's children still pay for crap we're getting now. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's ridiculous, you know? And the fact it's like they want to pay for everybody's college, like it's also dumb. If you want to pay for it, fine. If I'm going to pay for your college, then you either have to serve in the military, or we get to pick what you get to do. You know, I'm not wasting my kids' money just so you can, you know, become an art major, you know?
It is a certain percentage of people, certain income level, that are supposed to pay for these programs that you're speaking of. But I mean, I think that's a valuable point, though. Like, there should be a trade-off, you know?
There's no trade. It's just free, you know? And that's what, like, even Pelosi
Nothing's
said
free.
the other day. Like, she said, oh, it's free. Nothing's free.
Nothing
ever.
We'll be paying for it.
no
The
quid
people
pro
that work
quo.
will be paying for it.
Yeah.
The middle class will be paying for it. That's
I
who's
mean, there
going
are
to be paying
people
for
here
it.
in desperate need that are concerned about having enough bread, milk, eggs, whatever, to feed themselves, their families, worried about bills, everyday bills, utilities, rent, and so forth. They can't, I mean, and you're tossing out $3.5 trillion of God knows what to God knows where. And what about these people, these poor people here?
And that's a good point, because our president, in that limited term that they have to think long term. And I know that it's hard every day. Families are struggling to put food on their table, to go to work, to have someone watch their kid, to pay for health care. But the president and the office of the president has to think of short term, but as well as long term. We have to make our country great again, really. We absolutely do, because we're falling behind these other countries.
Well, if people are sick and starving, nothing's going to help. You need to fix things from the ground up, not start.
Throwing money at it.
Right.
Money that we don't have.
I mean, the stimulus payments really tremendously helped a lot of families and individuals. And that, if anything, he should have continued somehow, or at least try to get it passed, or get it included in the $5 trillion.
Socialism. I'm sorry.
Bless you. I mean, but all of these sky in the pie, free college, free this, free that.
Nothing's free, yeah.
So it's
People
interesting.
don't have food.
I've heard the word socialism said aloud and almost aloud a few times during this discussion. I've heard you say nothing's free. They're doing this crazy math thing now to say that it's free, right?
Yeah.
So you're all skeptical of that. But you do need government to do certain things, right?
Yes.
And one thing that often separates Republicans from Democrats is what they think the role of government is. I mean, you pay taxes. We all pay taxes. What is the role of government if it's not to pay for infrastructure, to do things like that? What's the role of government?
The government's too big, and we need to make it to where it needs to be more of a federal system, to where the Nevada worries about Nevada, and Las Vegas worries about Las Vegas, and Reno about Reno. You know, we don't need to be worrying about what LA's doing with our tax money. Like, that's the problem, is that whenever California decided to go green in 10 years, it bankrupt their state, and now they're expecting the rest of everybody in America to bail them out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's constantly what happens, because you can't look at it. That's when in the budget proposal they do based off 10-year terms, and they timed it out to where, if you look at the math, that it's like in this last one that came up is that it's set for an 8-year. So they did that purposely so it would, fall in line. But it's not. Everybody knows that it's not going to go that way,
I also like to mention, I think it's a terrible misnomer that Republicans have no social conscience. I think
Who would say such a thing, Naomi?
Many people say it, that we are only interested in our own and only interested in corporate this and corporate that, and don't raise the corporate taxes and so on and so forth. I think that the boat that they're missing is that what concerns us is to see that federal monies are appropriated directly to where they need to go, with no stops, to help people that are in need. I have no problem with that at all. And we get all bogged down in tax breaks and this and that for corporations. And I think that many Republicans do have a social conscience. And the issue is not how much money you have to spend, it's what you do with it. And I think that is where the two parties basically divide. What you do with what you've got.
So one of the things that's said about the Republican Party, if you think about the analogy, the Democrats, people say inside the Democratic Party there are progressives and there are moderates. And inside the Republican Party, it's described in a different way now. There are Trump Republicans, and then there are the rest of the Republicans. Who here is a Trump Republican? Does anybody know what that means? You're a Trump Republican.
I sure am.
There's another Trump Republican. What does that mean to you?
I just loved him as a president. I just believe in everything he says. He loves America first. He's shown it. He's proved it in everything that he's done. And so I am a Trumpster.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I am. And my whole family is too. And just because of everything that he's done and everything he stands for. He's a patriot. I'm a patriot. And, I believe in that. So
I was the opposite. The first time, before he got elected the first time, I was like, there's no way this guy's going to become president. He's probably like the worst TV reality show thing that could go wrong. I mean, I was so scared that he was going to become president, and I was like, if he gets elected, which there's no way he is, I was like, we're going to have World War III. And when he became president, now granted, the guy, in my opinion, should not be given a microphone and should not be able to talk in public, because I feel like he's a schoolyard bully who just like kind of pokes to antagonize. He'll say something, watch everyone fight, and just kind of sit back and laugh. But what he did was complete opposite. Like, from what I read and researched and looked, he did a lot, and he backed up the things he said. He may not have said it the most eloquent way. He may have not, sometimes like, I've watched Trump speeches and I'd get mad at him, like, shut up. Just go up there and stick to the facts. This is what you did. It doesn't matter how huge or how big or how better and how it's the greatest. Just stick to the facts of like what you did or what you're doing. And I find that because he spoke like that and because he did act like a bully, nobody likes a bully, because he acted like that, so many people focused on hating him as a person,
Right.
opposed to what he did. Which, so when I say, "Hey, I'm a Trump supporter," it's kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
I like Trump, but not like he isn't. You know what I mean? Like I was even watching, his speech when he was talking about
I used to tell
Mr.
people.
I want to let Pat
Sorry.
jump in here now.
Yeah, I voted for Trump too, and a lot of times I didn't always admit it because I didn't want to get into the arguments or the debates with certain people about who I voted for. And I was disappointed when Biden got in and didn't complete the wall. I thought that the wall should have been completed. And I still do, to this day, think that it should have been completed because as we all saw what happened after Biden got in, the wall stopped, and then we saw what happened with all of the immigrants coming in and still are to this
still
day
coming,
with
yeah.
that problem. And there's a lot about the way President Trump acted that I didn't like. There was so much that, and trying to draw that line so that I could be supportive and not have to, yeah, I voted for him and I like him, but don't tell anyone,
It's interesting, Eric, I didn't see you say you were a Trump Republican. You're not?
Yeah.
I don't feel like you should idolize any politician. I feel like they're, I mean, for as long as I've been alive, everybody knows that politicians lie, and we're acting like these people that idolize them on both sides. They act like they're flawless people. They're just not. They're never going to be, and you're literally picking the best liar for the most part. So it is what it is. And most of the time, the Congress and the
I
Senate.
could get into a lot of trouble, but why I would not vote for Biden the next time, because I have a lot of reasons why I wouldn't vote for him. But if I verbally said them here, I could get into a lot of trouble.
You're here to get in trouble, Pat. I don't want to say that.
Now everybody knows.
Because I think he's a hypocrite, for one thing, when he talks about his religion, for some of the things that he
How
has
so?
said, birth control and things like
So
that.
he says he's a Catholic, but he's for birth control. That bothers you?
Absolutely.
Talking about
And when he
Biden.
goes to
When he
church
believes in
and
abortion,
when
that
he
right
goes
there.
to church and receives communion,
Yeah.
that really bothers me a lot. And it bothers me that the priest actually gives him communion knowing that he supports.
You're going to get in trouble.
Abortion.
I know.
I'm
I
kidding.
know that.
So we only have a couple minutes left, and I've gotten you going on a variety of subjects. Let's see if I can get you going on two words now. You ready?
Go for it.
Media. Media.
Fake.
What'd you say?
I said fake media.
Fake media.
Leftist
Yeah,
mafia.
Leftist mafia.
Okay,
Yes.
go on. Let's hear some more love.
Extremely biased.
Yes,
Bias,
Democratic,
yes.
mostly liberal.
Anti-American.
Democratic. Yes, anti-American.
Anti-American,
Good
that's
one.
pretty strong.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's so severe right now that I just think that there is no type of reflection of other countries' actions toward us. It's always, now we have to take the brunt of it.
It's propaganda.
Propaganda,
Yeah.
yes.
They won't,
Scary.
like in American TV, you won't see anything about what's happening in Australia, They won't talk about that at all because that's the direction they want to head, But it's like, Australia's crazy right now.
Yeah.
But people don't read, Americans, I think for the most part, don't read foreign press. I read the foreign press, and here I read our press, right and left. There's no center, I don't think, but right and left, and hope to garner some modicum of truth from all of it. But, you can't just pick up your local paper and think that's the world, because you're doing yourself a disservice.
Anybody else want to give some love for the media in the few seconds we have left? Pat?
I
I
feel like
love reading the paper, and I love watching Fox News and CNN. I switch back and forth. I like to hear all the channels.
for you.
I give everybody a shot. I'm not attacked to one channel. My daughter-in-law will not change Fox News, and she has her certain commentators that she watches, and you're not allowed to change the channel when you're there.
See,
I like them all. I like to listen
I like
to them all.
Newsmax is a good
Yeah,
one.
Newsmax
Yes,
I like
Newsmax
too,
is
the
a
new
good
one.
I don't like
I
watching.
like to give them all a shot.
I won't watch CNN, but
I don't like watching any of them because even if they're views that I agree on, when they're so hardcore, like pushed, opinionated, it ruins it for me. So
Doesn't give you any more information.
I go to opposite. I try to go and watch the ones that are against my views, just because I always want to see their opinion and see, like, maybe I'm blinded. I don't know everything. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but sometimes it
And it
makes you
never
so
helps.
mad.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So I wanted to finish up this discussion feeling all the love for my profession. You guys did not disappoint. I'm kidding. I really do appreciate the robust conversation. Thanks to all of you for taking part in
You're
this.
quite welcome.
I really do appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. And when we come back at Indyfest 2021, Elizabeth and I will talk a little bit about this panel for a few minutes, and then Nate Silver and I will sit down for a chat. Stick around.